YouTubers, my name is Attila Mate from Blue Sky Photography, and today I would like to talk to you about Sony lenses and are they really overpriced or not. Now, many times I get comments, in my channel. Even if you follow my channel, you probably know that I used to be a Sony user, then I left and I went back to Nikon, because before Sony I was using Nikon for a good while. And the main reason I went back to Nikon, it was the Sony lens lineup. Now, that was like maybe 2 years ago or something like that. And that time, Sony lens lineup was really small. And in the meantime, they grew substantially and they have a lot of lenses. But in the same time, many people complain that these lenses are really overpriced. And I would like to discuss in this video, because I think, in my opinion, they are overpriced. Now, we have to compare them with Nikon and Canon and Fuji. I don't really want to compare with Fujifilm or Olympus or Panasonic, because obviously most of the lenses in the Sony lineup, they are full frame lenses. And Fujifilm and Olympus and Panasonic, they obviously don't have a full frame version, so it's kind of no point to compare. But in the same time, if you want an APS-C size camera, you don't really have lenses in the Sony lineup. You can use obviously the full frame lenses and they are really good, but they are pricey. Now, this year, in a few months ago, like 1 month ago, 1.5 months ago, Sigma announced and Tamron that they will enter in the game seriously, and Sigma announced 9 lenses which they will release in the Sony E-mount lineup. Again, here, this is very a controversial topic, because many photographers will say that, oh, Sigma lenses, they are not good, they are BS, they are this, they are that, they don't have I don't know, they don't have good color rendition or micro contrast or whatever you want to call it, But I like Sigma art lenses. Now, like I say many times, we don't have to agree all the time, That's why this world is very beautiful, because we are all different. But let's not discuss today about the Sigma lenses. Let's discuss today about Sony lenses, and let's see if they are really overpriced or not. Now, Sony lenses, the image quality wise, they are really, really good. Don't get me wrong, I used to own a lot of Sony lenses and they were all exceptionally good, including the cheaper APS-C lenses, which I used to own. From the APS-C size, I used to own the 35mm f1.8 OSS, which is optical stabilized, the 50mm OSS, which is again optical stabilized, and I used to own the 55-200 or something like that, that zoom, which is again very cheap, and it's a very old lens. I think it's 55-200, I'm not sure now. I will put up here on the screen, but if I remember well, it is 55-200. It was a slow lens, but in the same time, image quality wise, it was good. Now, when we talk about the 35mm and the 50mm, which obviously on the APS-C it will act like 50mm and 75mm, f1.8 aperture will be depth of field wise kind of 2.8-ish, kind of like that. But those lenses, image quality wise, they were excellent. And I tell you something, I used to own for full frame, I used to own the 28mm f2 and the 55mm Sony Zeiss lens, which is by DxOMark standards, Now again, don't get me wrong, many people will say DxOMark is bullshit, blah, 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 whatever. By DxOMark standards, the 55-1.8 Zeiss, Sony Zeiss lens is one of the best lenses. And I tell you something, when I made a comparison, between the 50mm f1.8 and the 55mm f1.8, I was they are kind of the same, The Zeiss had a little bit better micro contrast, and that's the Zeiss touch, what many people will speak. But with a little bit of work in post-processing, you could do that the same, And even my friend, we used to do the comparison with one of my friends, and my friend was really shocked, because that 50mm lens is like 250 euro or something like that, and the 55mm Zeiss, it's 800 euro. So it's kind of triple the price. Okay, but this is on the APS-C size I'm talking about. Now, when we get to full frame and when we get to, obviously, to the Sony A7R Mark III, which is 40 something megapixel, then you cannot compare that with a 24 megapixel APS-C size Sony A6500 with this €250 lens on it. Obviously that's different. But when we speak about both lenses on an APS-C camera, you couldn't really see the difference. Now, Sony lenses, they are good quality, good build quality, good image quality. Fair enough, that's true. But in the same time, the full frame lenses I'm talking about, the newer ones, they are overpriced in my opinion. Now, why they are doing this, I really don't have a clue. And this again, when Sigma and Tamron will enter the game, many photographers, they will buy Sigma art lenses and Tamron zooms, you know, and Tamron primes, because they are really good. And with this, Sony might lose some business, but yet they don't want to reduce the price. So I don't really understand why they do this, but that's how they do. So let's get into my computer. I will show you some examples in my computer and let's see which one is which one. Okay, so we are in my computer now, and let's open up a web browser and let's see some prices. Now, I took the prices from B&H Photo Video because obviously this is one of the biggest sites in United States, and only for guideline, you know, and this is they have pretty good prices. Adorama is also really good, and they have kind of similar prices like B&H. But I think that this site has a lot of information, and that's why I picked this site, but I don't have any preferences between Adorama or B&H Photo Video. Now let's see first of all the 70-200 options, because that's most of the photographers, especially wedding and portrait photographers, they would like to have this lens. And also even a nature photographer or wildlife photographer, usually they will have this lens. So this is kind of a necessary lens, you know. So let's see a little bit the 70-200. You can see from Nikon that you have 70-200 f2.8, which is $2,796. Oh my goodness. Now this is really expensive. The advantage in Nikon is though that you have options, like you have the 70-200 f4, sorry, which is $1,396. You have the 70-200 f2.8 version, which is the older version. Oh, sorry, it's not the older version, it's the newer 100th anniversary edition, and that is $4,000. Oh, that's even worse than that. But you have also the Tamron 70-200, which is $1,299. You have Sigma option, Tamron options. You have the F4 Pro version from Tokina, which is again cheaper, so on and so forth. Now, you have a lot of options in Nikon, I would say. You can choose according to your budget. You can also get this first lens, which is the this 70-200 f2.8, the older version, and that will be cheaper. That will be like $1,800, something like that. Now that's the advantage in Nikon. But if we look at this price, because this is the actual lens now, the newer lens, and it's $2,796. Now look at the Sony version, which is the G Master, the 70-200 f2.8 G Master. That is $2,600. So it's actually cheaper than the Nikon. Now I understand this point when many photographers will argue and they will say that, look, Sony is not that expensive, they are actually cheaper than Nikon. It is cheaper when we speak about the newer lenses, but when we speak about the options you have, that's where Nikon is different. But in the same time, let's not forget that Tamron is getting into the game now in Sony side, and Sigma more seriously, so that will be an issue for Nikon and Canon, I tell you. Now, like I said, I don't want to compare over here Canon as well. They are cheaper, obviously, but it would be too long for this video. So let's look again to the 24-70 side, because that's the second zoom lens which portrait, wedding photographers, these kind of nature photographers, they would like to have. Now, the 2.8 version, 24-70 from Nikon, is $2,400. Again, you have over here a second version, you can see, which is $1,796. And you have Tamron version, which is $1,200. And Sigma version, $1,300, and so on and so forth. Tokina is $900, and so on and so forth. So you can actually choose whatever suits your budget. When you go to Sony, you see that $2,200, and if you compare with the Nikon, again Sony is cheaper. This is $2,400. Sony is $2,200. So it's cheaper. Unbelievable, but it's actually cheaper than the Nikon lens. Now, like I said, you can choose to buy a lot of options in the Nikon version. Whether in the Sony you have this lens and you don't have anything else. Now Tamron will have the 24 to 75, yeah, 24 to 75 or 25 to 70, something like that. Yeah, that's what you will have with f2.8 now, and probably it will be priced about $1,500 in my opinion. But that's still not yet in it, you know. So you have only this option for the moment. So comparing with the Nikon, again the Sony is cheaper. Now let's go a little bit further and let's see the third zoom lens, which is the wide one, the 16 to 35 or 15 to 30 or this kind of zoom range. Now again, Nikon have two options over here. You have the 14 to 24 millimeter f2.8, which is wider than that. That is $1,896. You have the 16 to 35 f4, which is a very famous lens, and that is $1,100. You have Tokina version, you have a lot of Sigma version, you have Tamron version, you have a lot of versions. And you have variable aperture, you have a lot of kind of versions. Now again, you have over here the 17 to 35 f2.8D lens, which is $1,951. And this one could be the 16 to 30, close to 16 to 35, I would say. You have Sigma 12 to 24, that's different. Sorry. So the 17 to 35 f2.8D is 1,951. If you look at the Sony size, you can see that the 16 to 35 f2.8 G Master is 2,198. Now in this case, the G Master, it is expensive with about $300. This is, yeah, $250, kind of expensive. But let's not forget that this lens is a D lens, an Nikon D lens, which is older design, and the G Master is newer design. And I can guarantee you that the G Master will be kind of betterish image quality wise than this one. Now, if we speak about the 14 to 24 at the beginning, this one, 14 to 24 f2.8, that is $1,896, which is a pretty fair, good price, again, if you compare with the 2,200. Now obviously this is different because this is wider lens. 16 to 35 is again different, and Sony has its own 14 to something lens. I don't know exactly, but I don't want to search around now. So these are the zoom lenses. You see that Sony zoom lenses has kind of the same price like Nikon zoom lenses. Now if you look the example on 85 1.4, yeah, let's type in Nikon 85mm f 1.4. If you get the G lens over here, you see $1,600. Now if you have over here the Sony 85 1.4, Sony 85mm f 1.4 G lens, it will be $1,798. So $1,600, $1,800, $200 difference between the two lenses. Now the Nikon 85 1.4 G lens, it is an excellent lens. It's a very good lens. And again, over here you have the option with the Sigma 85 1.4 with $1,200, but this lens will be available also in Sony, probably for the same price. Samyang you already have in Sony, Zeiss you already have in Sony, and so on and so forth. Now, like I said, this $200 difference, it is not really big in my opinion, but if you count a lot of $200-300, it will end up 1,000 or 1,500, so it will end up a little bit more money, you know, like. But at the end of the day, if you calculate the zooms and the primes together, the difference is not really big. So in my opinion, Sony prices kind of came down a little bit, but they still have to come down. If they would come down about 10% or 15% more, it will be excellent. It will be a little bit, just a little bit cheaper than Nikon. That would be great, I tell you. Now, this is only my opinion. If you think that I left something out of this video, or if you have a different opinion, feel free and leave a comment down below. I think that Sony is on a very good way, on a very good path to be a really big threat for Nikon and Canon, I tell you. Now, the only territory where they have to work really hard now is the customer service, and that is a tough territory for Sony. But probably they will work very soon on that. Hopefully, I really would like to see that Sony is forcing Nikon and Canon to do something, you know, to act something. Because at the end of the day, we all benefit from this, you know, because healthy competition is necessary in today's world. So I hope that this video was helpful to you guys. I hope that you liked it. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and share my videos. And other than that, I wish you a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.